Here are 5 insane builds in Hades 2 full release that even complete beginners can get very easy wins with. Build number 1, Hephaestus Infinite Blasts. Hephaestus feels better than ever these days, and this build is an excellent entry build for your very first clear, or if you want to consistently win clearing the story, but it also scales nicely into high fear runs, very nicely in fact. It's a simple premise: get Hephaestus on either your special or attack, or both, and pump the target attack as much as you can to reduce its cooldown all the way to its limit 2 seconds. This is what then happens: blast into blast into blast into more blasts, melting everything on screen. And this works with any weapon, by the way, which is another pro. To illustrate that this is a very beginner friendly option, I'll use the sister blades here that you'll get at the start, put it on the special, which will give you nice range, and done. You have a very consistent and safe clear here after reducing the cooldown. But how do you actually reduce it all the way to 2 seconds though, consistently? Well, first of all, always prio the pomegranates, whether it's through it being a reward or just buying them at the shop. See this juicy fruit, get it, and don't take too many boons earlier on, so you can isolate your Heph boon here and make it appear more easily in the palm upgrade interface. But that's not the only way. There are a lot of ways actually to do this. Nectar, for example, gives you upgrades as well if you get the incantation. Hera has a boon that can make your boon instantly heroic, which is huge here, as it will shave off a lot of seconds instantly. And then Echo has pom 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 that can double your level instantly, since you will focus Heph's boon up until that moment. It can right away bring you to the cap as well. Icarus has level gains as well. Demeter has the boon that increases rarity, which also shaves off seconds. And then you have the new OP keepsake that gives you a bunch of levels every time you choose a boon right at the start of your run as well, so it's huge there too. You get the gist, right? There are more ways to do this than just stacking palms, and if you're not at the Fate's Whim, then using Heph's keepsake is always a great way to start any run like that, especially given that you can rarefy your blast boon immediately for a nice start. After doing all of that, you can then shave off beyond the cap as well with the Poseidon Heph duo boon, Seismic Servo, which can get you almost to 1 second. But if you get this duo boon early, then you can already start shaving off them seconds. For example, at 10 seconds it becomes 7 seconds. So it's great to get this boon early, but also later on. Ultimately, the concept is easy to get this going, but you can of course optimize it a bit. The Hestia duo boon here is incredible. It makes you proc 2 blasts every time you use it correctly, and when your cooldown is near 1 second, yeah, that is a lot of blasts. Then try to get Grand Caldera for sure, which will make your blast even bigger and harder hitting, and your blast can scale nicely with other effects like Origination or Furies from your Arcana cards to percentage-based modifier boons to scale its damage up even more. You can get blasts encapsulating thousands of damage each very easily, in fact. Now, I would say that any weapon would work, and that is really the case, which is why this is an excellent build for beginners. But if you want to optimize your weapon choice, then I personally like 2 for that purpose the most. First of all, the aspect of Persephone from the Argent Skull, which is amazing because its unique effect is that it gives you a bunch of level ups for free when you use it, which directly synergizes with our build's idea and mission here. And then you can just toss out these skulls, get the blast safely in, and have a great awesome time. The other weapon that I also really like for Hephaestus based builds is the aspect of Sepe from the Torches, as you essentially just passively proc the blast over and over without having to do anything really except for moving around the rooms and connecting your torch projectile with the enemies. It's essentially the unique effect of this weapon, but since the blasts are just essentially raw damage and don't require specific combat actions, it works very smoothly, and you will get the damage in over and over without really having to think. All of that is then also backed by the fact that Hephaestus has a really good roster of defensive boons, from Trusty Shield to Security System to Uncanny Fortitude, and also other duo boons in addition to Hestia's one that can nicely amplify the build's damage as well, depending on what other gods you get in your run. So the build here, and just focusing Hephaestus in general as a beginner, has a lot of merits, and I 100% cannot envision a list like this without his inclusion. This guy is a beautiful bastard. Beautiful like the aspect of Circe, the next build on today's list. This aspect, oh boy, is now better than ever. You essentially get 2 casts, the regular one from you, but your animal now also drops a sneaky cast, and there's a psychic link between you and your animal that truly connects you two, that now also does damage every 0.2 seconds for everything in its path, and this damage should not be underestimated. It stacks up really nicely and very quickly with how many times it ticks every second, making any build revolving around the aspect of Circe go online pretty much in your very first encounter. counter. Yes, you heard that right. Getting a good boon on your cast here is extremely important, but you have a lot of options, which makes it a very flexible build. For most damage, I would go with Zeus cast as the lightning bolts overlap and the damage can get crazy. However, Hera, Demeter and Apollo are all nice options for your cast too, as they have good damage and utility, and when stacked they go crazy as well. Some casts do not overlap though, in particular Hestia and Ares, so keep that in mind if you want to make an extra deadly zone of 2 casts damage stacked, and in those cases I would personally go for the other options, but anything can work really. And you can make your cast extra deadly by adding Demeter's Gust to get origination procced with a single cast in various cases, for example, making them increase in size with Apollo's boon to get huge coverage, making the bolt strike even more with Zeus double strike, or even play around Omega cast and make them come out extra fast with Winner's Circle from Hermes, and accordingly add things like Geyser Sprout from Poseidon, Meat Grinder from Ares, Local Climate from Demeter, and things of that nature, and just focusing on spamming these god enhanced Omega casts instead of regular casts. However, regular casts come out instantly, so either route is great, and the overarching takeaway here is that you just want to make your cast as deadly as possible, with 2 of them being on the battlefield all the time. However, your animal pick here is extra important, and my favorite is going to be Raki, which you can recruit in the Underworld's first zone near a fountain. I like Raki because he's like a homing missile that tracks our targets very nicely. He goes all over the field, but that simultaneously makes our Psychic Link obliterate everything all over, and that in addition to the damage of the cast, and then we can also just stack our cast during boss fights very nicely as he sticks onto the boss, and with him sticking on the boss, that also means that if we cast from a distance, he will essentially do the job for us. And this bird gives you some critical chance as well, which makes our DPS that is coming from a lot of different sources even higher. Since the aspect of Circe is a wish staff, you have a lot of options here for how you want to build your weapons attacks. You can focus on normals or on the Omegas, and I do like the Omegas here a bit more, I think, as with 2 casts all the time, you'll have great CC all over the battlefield, giving you more time to actually load up your Omegas. And the witch staff, both attack and special, have nice reach and high innate base damage. For example, Zeus on a special to get quick blitz procs that can also be procced over and over by your Psychic Link, by the way, and a higher percentage scaling boon on attack for the Omega attack nuke, something like Apollo to make the AoE even bigger, Hera for the amazing hit spread, or Aphrodite with the highest percentage share giving you the most damage. But in that case you have to make sure your enemies are in close range. But even better there would be in fact if you can get the Aphrodite to a boon with Poseidon to make this damage bonus apply for everything, including long range enemies. Ares with wounds on your Omega attack is nice too, as its 3-second cooldown syncs very nicely with the output of your nukes here. And then you have hammers that make your Omega attack even stronger, like shooting it off twice, or getting a cross-like pattern like this that covers the entire screen essentially. But also for your Omega special you have nice options, so be on the lookout for anything that enhances either aspect. One thing is certain, however, with the aspect of Circe, victory is imminent. Just like with the aspect of Karen for Zareth and the Moonstone Axe. This weapon works simple, but is extremely deadly. You drop your cast, hit it with your Omega special, and you'll blow up your own cast, get the Omega cast damage as a result much faster than if you would place your Omega cast manually, and that in tandem with the damage of the Omega special of a heavy hitting weapon, the Moonstone Axe. Well, let's say all of that results into absolute disgusting damage. It is a simple concept but extremely powerful. As you can see, the combined radius of both the Omega cast and the Omega special explosions here just clears entire rooms instantly, while giving you a lot of distance due to the reach of the Omega special and safety due to the CC of the cast, and it nukes bosses as well like it's nothing. Especially if you get some synergistic boons going. You want a high percentage base boon for your special here to get the most out of this, as the Moonstone Axe comes with high raw power. And you want to essentially aim for you casting one special, and that results in you clearing everything. So something like Apollo here is amazing because it comes with good percentage base scaling, but also important, it increases the impact radius even more. Hera is a great alternative too and will apply hits for very quick damage spread, and Ares is a nice third option as well with the increase in power and playing of wounds. Zeus on your special for what is essentially practical instant blitz damage application is a very nice alternative setup as well. And if you can't get any of those, then Demeter on your special is going to be a very viable 5th option as well, combining CC and nice damage. Personally then, I really like putting Hephaestus on your attack here to weave them blasts in that we already talked about extensively earlier every time you are repositioning to place your new cast. It's a lot of extra damage just being woven in like that. For your cast, you then definitely want something that has front-loaded damage or utility, since you will blow up your cast anyways, so the faster you benefit from them, the better. I, for example, really like Aphrodite's cast here, which will pull everything to the center to line them up perfectly for you to accordingly nuke everything with your axe special. But if you can't get that, then other good options would be Demeter for the freeze, being useful CC, or Apollo for the damage burst and daze to potentially make the attacks miss you. And that's the starting point. From then onwards, you really want to amp up your damage and opt for these type of boons that amplify the damage output of your Omega special and cast as much as possible, usually in trade for an increase in magicka, but we will solve that in a second. Apollo is amazing all the way through, because focusing on him will allow you to get his legendary exceptional talent, which will make you launch your Omega special twice, and that is a huge DPS increase and is explosive as hell. Combine that with other enhancing effects and you will get absolute carnage, like for example Ares, which is a great god to have in these runs, as he provides cut above amplifying Omega usage as well as meat grinder that will accordingly proc every time you blow up your cast, which results in this juiciness that you are currently observing. And having Ares in your runs means you have access to this plasma, which will help out with your movement speed and thus will allow you to reposition quickly. Add Demeter then to the mix with local climate and the duo between Ares and Demeter, and oh, you'll have an amazing time. Poseidon will be another great god to have, with Geyser Sprout being a huge damage buff. And the same story for Hera, especially with her fine line, which then can also fire off twice if you have Hera with Poseidon and get their duo boon, and Hera is just great for the general greatness of her kit. And those are just some examples that you can work with. But the more important takeaway is that when cast, Omega cast or Omega special enhancing boons are presented, you definitely want to hard prio them. And same thing goes for your hammers. Prio the special related hammers, as there are only a few of them, with Giga Cleaver being the absolute best option here, as it does essentially the same as Apollo's legendary, and those two stack as well, granting you essentially what can only be described as a tsunami of explosions. Since you will be constantly casting Omega specials that might also be upped in magicka cost due to the various mentioned boons, you definitely want a good gain here. Apollo's magicka gain is going to be king here, since the shortened duration of cast and the gain here being tied 1-to-1, with every time when you use your magicka consuming Omega special, your cast will expire, which in turn will give you magicka. It is a very nice synergy. And then alternatively, Hera's gain is excellent as well, as always really, or even Poseidon's gain, as it synergizes nicely with your Omega usage here. As your pet, I would take Hekiba just for the magicka gain, and him dropping magic orbs really nice before you get your first game, and it will help you out tremendously in the early game. Given that Apollo is prominent in various areas as you saw, especially his gain and special, I would say running his keepsake at the start is a very nice insurance to a great run. But the build is flexible and you can very easily model it into a very powerful build very easily and very consistently. A very powerful build like build number 4, the machine gun build. For this build, we're going to have a second entry for the Witch Staff, and this time the aspect of Melanoe, however. Yes, this is actually a deadly ass weapon, and who would have thought that the very first weapon of the game is in fact insane, and especially if you get some ranks on it. The reason for this is because the unique effect of the aspect of Melanoe will add a bunch of power to your special, giving you huge damage if you then combine it with a nice and high percentage scaling boon, like for example Hera, Demeter or Apollo's, but the best option here will be Aphrodite. Aphrodite comes with the highest scaling percentage attack and special boons, so putting it on something with crazy base raw damage already will make the damage go through the roof. And for this purpose I would definitely grab Aphrodite's keepsake, and thus guarantee you to get the special attack enhancing Flutter Flourish as soon as possible. Accordingly, you spam your special over and over and over. It goes fast, and for this purpose I would recommend turning on auto fire in the menu, so you have a real machine gun-esque type of feeling when playing. From there, get a nice cast to proc Fury, spend your magicka at the start of the encounter and have perma upkeep of Huntress, since you never really use magicka otherwise, and get 2 curses for origination going, for example through your sprint and cast, and your damage will be going through the roof. For your cast, I like a good CC based curse giving cast like Arctic Ring or Rapture Ring are my personal favorites, to keep our enemies nicely in place for us to rail them down. That's the basics of this build, but you can make things even better when considering putting Ares in the run. With his plasma you can stack nicely up on them and get insane attack speeds, especially if you can get his legendary to double the bonuses and auto collect everything, yeah, for your convenience. And these clips are already insane without the legendary, so it's completely optional but makes things even better, and aim to get Universal Donor to make your life even more easy. The duo boon between Ares and Aphrodite is then also very nice here, as all the plasma spam will give you an army of Heartthrobs surrounding you, so while you're dashing and making contact with enemies left and right, you'll obliterate them as well in the process of you getting to your spot. Nice bit of a lot of extra damage woven in between while you go from enemy to machine gun them down and just destroy everything with your specials. And as you see, the speeds at how you clear here are amazing. And then also I have to mention the boon from Hermes, which also increases your speed, is also very nice. Then for hammers, I would definitely recommend to get dual moonshot or anything really that enhances your specials. In the case of dual moonshot, you now start shooting out 2 instead of 1, so you already know what that means. Even more damage every single second. And in boss fights, it goes insanely fast. You just auto fire specials and it will be the easiest dub of your life. Easy dub givings like build number 5, the popular Medea nuclear build. Aspect of the Medea is tied to the fastest speedruns in the world in Hades 2, so it is safe to say it is absolutely cracked. It is also extremely easy to play as well for beginners once you get the motion down and get very consistent high fear clears, because all you do is load up a skill and then use your special. Basically, if playing on controller, you slide your attack input towards your special input and rinse and repeat. Accordingly, you go from enemy to enemy, one-shotting them one by one as you get attack and special damage at the same time, and this weapon's unique property is that it amplifies both instances of damage with a whopping 90%. So you can probably see why this build is insane. It's just a lot of damage in very quick succession. To get the best results, you want a proc based boon on your special. Zeus is usually what is used for the fastest clear, as you can proc blitz over and over here, so a lot of damage. But both Hera and Demeter work very well too. And then on your attack, you get something that complements your special for origination and gives you that second curse. I really like Ares here due to giving you the possibility to get his tier 2 boon for double damage from wounds to make your damage even more cracked, but Demeter is also amazing for the very safe clears thanks to freeze, which might be especially nice as a beginner, and Hera is also a great option too for very quick hit spreads thanks to your attack, but Hestia can work nicely too with Scorch. A lot of options basically, just make sure you don't have the same god for both your attack and special. Then outside of that, this is another build that doesn't use magicka, so you can have perma upkeep of Huntress, the already mentioned origination due to us having 2 different curses on attack and special, and Furies for the cast related enhancing damage. For your cast, anything works really to keep things at bay, but Demeter or Aphrodite for safety, or Zeus, Hestia or Heph for even more damage. Hammers, you then grab anything that enhances your flow of movement, attack speed or more damage. Possessed Array is also absolutely cracked here as it adds a lot of explosive power, but introducing it means magicka will be something you have to think about, so you'll have to stack magicka with it and get a S+ tier magicka gain like Born Gain to make sure you can sustain it. But it's definitely worth to go for it if this option presents itself in your runs. As your special is a dasher, it essentially means you have back-to-back dashes too, and thus heaps of movement, which is nice for safety purposes. And another safety procedure you want to engage in is to subscribe to me right now, so you never miss out on this type of cutting-edge content that just makes your life better. Also, like the video and let me know what you think of these builds in the comments, if you had great success with them yourselves, as well as your favorite build in general, because we have reached a point in this video where now you know everything you need to know to start destroying everything with these 5 amazing builds.